welcome everybody. I'm glad you're able to join us today. As Jay says, I'm Alan Rutberg. I'm the director of the center as well as the director of the master's program in public policy. We do have a bunch of things coming up, events at the center. We have a couple of interesting animal matters seminars coming up, one involving India's elephants. One of the things that the center is involved with is something called the Tufts Elephant Conservation forget what word, TICA. And Alliance, yes. It's an across-campus alliance, and we work with Fletcher School and the engineering school and all sorts of folks. But one of the things we do is we sponsor an elephant conservation lecture every year. So that's coming up in about 10 days. And then not long after that, we have Dr. Mira Gatlin, who is a faculty member here who runs the Masters of Public Health program for Cummings School. And she'll be talking about her work with working dogs. In particular, I think she'll be talking about police dogs, which she works on. And application deadline, of course, is April 1st. We'll mention that again later. And then later things going on in next semester. So, so today I'll talk a little bit about myself and what I do. We'll talk about the center and its history, and we'll talk about the master's program, of course, and we can do a Q&A at the end. As Jenny says, it's a good idea to put your questions in the chat. That way I won't forget and you won't forget, and we'll get them answers. Get them answered. All right, so we are lucky enough to be located at Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine at Tufts University. And our vision here is together we advance the health and well-being of animals and people in our changing world, which really speaks to our One Health orientation. We are interested in, and of course, in vet medicine things, with caring for individual animals, whether they be cats or dogs or large animals or exotics. But we're also interested in the role of animals in the larger world, both in terms of human-animal relationships, which is our strength, and in terms of interactions between human health and animal health. So we have a pretty diverse faculty here interested in a lot of things. So the center, the Center for Animals and Public Policy goes back almost to the beginning of the vet school. I believe somewhere around 1984. And our role here is we're based on the tenets that animal well-being matters, right? So this is, it's essential for it fits in the vet school in that way. Animal and human well-being are linked, and both are enhanced through improved understanding of human-animal relationships, which is the core of our mission. Within the vet school, I think the original thinking was that the purpose of the center was to provide a safe space, really, for students and faculty to discuss human-animal relationships and emerging trends affecting animals, which can be as you know, can be controversial and challenging to talk about, but essential for veterinary medicine to be aware of, as veterinary medicine is so closely linked to the well-being of animals and the role and status of animals in society. We inform veterinary education and practice regarding changing needs of animals and clients in the community. We're kind of our job is partly to spot trends and bring them to the attention of the rest of the school as it thinks about veterinary education and what veterinarians should know. And we also lead the school's community engagement efforts. So some of the activities of the school with our assistance animals activities, some of our educational outreach to the community, our involvement with community medicine community veterinary medicine is based here as well. So we have thought of ourselves in terms of 4 areas based on our faculty interests, but also where the field is. So human-animal relationships is the core of what we do. Obviously, we're very interested in companion animal welfare and behavior. My particular interest is human-animal interactions and animal use in terms of lab animals and farm animals, and what are the practices, how does it affect, how are these practices and how do these policies affect the welfare of animals, and again, the status of animals in society. My history is, as Ginny says, I've been at the school since 2000, so it's been a long time. I'm a PhD in ecology and animal behavior, and I started my career with an interest in large animal behavior and did a bunch of field work on, for my PhD on American bison west, Yellowstone National Bison Range in Montana. Then came east and started working on the behavior of free roaming horses on Assateague Island in Maryland. And as an interesting contrast to bison. And so I did that for a while. I taught liberal arts college biology. And then in 1990, I went to work for the Humane Society of the United States as a wildlife advocate. I was senior scientist for wildlife and habitat protection. So I learned a bunch of stuff about policy. My responsibilities were closely linked to urban wildlife issues, especially with deer and how communities deal with deer problems. I also did a bunch of work with wild horses, with National Park Service wildlife policy, with wolves, with bison, endangered species issues. And so I got a good feel for different levels of how you get things done for animals in a policy context. So I also began working on fertility control in wildlife, especially deer and wild horses and burros, as a means of a sort of a technical approach to reducing conflict between people and animals and wildlife. So more on that at some point. So anyway, because of my interest and my expertise, I teach 2 modules of the Animals in Society core course. I teach the introductory policy module, and I teach wildlife policy as well. I teach an elective in wildlife in captivity, which is quite fun because I usually also get 4 or 5 DVM students in that class, and it's interesting to see the interaction of, and the differences and similarities and viewpoints between our master students and the DVM students. I teach a communication course, which is essentially an advocacy communications course where people learn to write for public and public consumption as well as for policymakers. And I have a little bit of involvement in Statistics 1, which I used to teach more of, but have handed that over to another faculty member. Again, my research interests are in human-wildlife conflict, especially deer. I'm talking to a community Friday night in a local community about some of those issues. So I do some of that outreach. Public lands, wild horse management, and I do a lot of work on field testing of contraception in deer and wild horses. Again, with the goal of coming up with a way to control wildlife populations that is practical and humane and publicly acceptable. And I also work with the Tufts Elephant Conservation Alliance. So as far as the MAPP program is concerned, we are uniquely an animal policy program. There's nobody else who does this at a vet school. There are a few policy and law and policy programs associated with law schools, but they're quite different in their perspective from us. There are some animal studies programs, which tend to be a little bit more esoteric, although they overlap with us a bit. But the policy piece is unique to us. And we direct our curriculum and our mentorship towards preparing you to work in animal policy. Whatever direction you end up going, we will help you build analytical tools, research skills, communication skills. You'll read the literature, you'll chew on it, you'll think about it and talk about it. We will expose you to a wide range of animal issues. It turns out a year isn't enough to do that, but we will talk to you in the Animals and Society class about wildlife and about companion animals and about human-animal interactions, lab animals and farm animals. So you will get a smattering of all of it from people who know what they're doing and have a lot of expertise in those areas. I'll talk about that in a little bit more too. A key part of our philosophy is that we want you to understand other people's viewpoints, because we feel not only is that a better way to go about things, but in order to be an effective advocate, it really helps to understand and evaluate different viewpoints on any given issue. And as you know, if you're familiar with animal issues, and I'm sure you all are, they're quite controversial. A lot of ideas get thrown around, a lot of information gets thrown around, and this is a way to sort through it. I'm putting my communication policy, or my policy communication students, through an exercise now where they write an opinion piece about taking a position on a legislative issue, and then have to do testimony taking the opposite viewpoint. And it's really important to us as a faculty and as a center that you take other people's viewpoints seriously, because that's the only way to get anywhere. We also work pretty hard to connect you to lots of other animal advocates and practitioners, whether it's other veterinarians or other people working for non-governmental organizations, government people. So you get both a sort of a survey of viewpoints, but also a survey of people's experience, which can really help in terms of finding your way. Our community is really important to us. We have built this very tight community of faculty and students and alumni, and they seem to find themselves in all kinds of different places. And the alumni become huge resources for current students. And a lot of alumni are helpful in identifying or hiring students for internships for the summer, and for helping people get jobs, not necessarily working for them, but at least for connecting them to other opportunities, and building a network. And so this is really, it's become for me one of the most rewarding experiences of the program. We have a lovely faculty, quite diverse in our interests. I was looking at our pictures and realizing only 2 of us are not Tufts graduates, and that's me and Shauna Dowling-Geyer. The rest of the folks here are either graduates of our program, so Dr. Jackman, Judge Grace, and Linder are all former MAPP students, and Megan Mueller is a triple jumbo. She got her PhD in Medford. Dr. King and Dr. Napier are both Tufts DVM graduates, and so we really we like to keep it in the family. We have a nice family. The MAPP curriculum follows 2 tracks. There's a core curriculum that everybody takes. So you will all spend time in the same classes, and you will all get to know each other really well. And the core curriculum is essentially the same for everybody in the first semester, and then diverges a little bit in the second semester. The choice of tracks, the research track or the applied track, is made at the end of fall semester. So you have a chance to think about what your interests are, with how much you like research, what your schedule is, what you hope to get out of the program. And the main difference, not the only difference, but the main difference is that the capstone project for the research track is a research project. An independent research project. The capstone for the applied track is a summer externship. And we also have a series of electives, which are pretty fun. So the core curriculum, which everybody takes, is Animals in Society 1 and 2. That's the one that introduces you to policy and the whole range of animal issues that are out there, and a human-animal interaction seminar, which Dr. Mueller teaches, which deals with the role of mostly companion animals in human health, in society, in the family, including things like assistance animals and all their different flavors. Everyone takes Research Methods 1, which explores both qualitative and quantitative research skills, and there are a bunch of independent projects or group projects that people do to develop those skills, develop and apply those skills. Everyone takes Statistics 1 with Dr. South, and everyone takes the Public Policy Analysis in the spring with Dr. Jackman. Public policy analysis goes a little bit more deeply into the analytics of writing policy memos and doing policy positions and sort of intensively looking at and taking apart particular policy questions. For the research track, everyone takes the core curriculum. The research track students also take a Statistics 2 class, also from Dr. South, which is a little bit looser. He likes to tailor it towards people's research projects. So if you need to do some sort of advanced regression, he'll structure it around, he'll give you exercises in different means of regression. But it just proceeds from Statistics 1. Research Methods 2, again, is Shauna Dallin Geyer, who also teaches Research Methods 1. And the main goal of that is to develop your research proposal. There's additional material that will that builds on some of the qualitative and quantitative techniques that are in Research Methods 1. But ultimately, this is where you want to, if you are in the research track, you're going to come out of it with a well-developed specific research proposal. And then independent research 1 and 2. Typically, those are summer and fall semesters. And you have to take 3 or more credits of electives. Usually people take more. An important part of the research track, and this is important for your timing, the research track almost always requires a 4th semester, a fall semester. There's no additional tuition involved with that. But we've found just from experience that in terms of proposal development, in terms of getting through any of the university committees that look at animal research or human subject research and the delays that may be involved there, and then the data collection, and then the analysis, and the writing it up, it virtually always takes 2 semesters. If you can do it in 1 semester, that's great, but you can only think of it actually happening once. So that's the research track. The applied track is a 12-month curriculum. For the applied track students, there's a core curriculum, the same one. Everyone is required to take my Communicating Policy Positions course, because that will teach you to do things that you would be doing if you are working in any sort of advocacy position. And then the summer externships, which I'll talk about in a little bit more, and 5 or more credits of electives. So a little bit more elective time, and the capstone again is the summer externship. Pretty much everybody finishes their summer externship by mid-August. So if you have plans for the following September, if you're going to want to go to vet school or law school or something like that, or a PhD program, if you have a deadline, you probably want to do the applied track. All right, there we go. So we also have these electives, and they change around a little bit, but some of them are, they're pretty predictable. There's a 1 credit animal law class that Judge Grace and Ann Linder each together. And it just explores some of the basics of applying the law to the to animals, and how it explores some of the rights, the way that that the law is being used to develop rights for animals, but also there are lots of ways in which animals are increasingly swept up in the law. Everything from custody cases to wills to all kinds of things where animals and the law impinge. So that's the one credit course. That's pretty fun. Often we have DVM or conservation medicine students taking that as well. I teach a wildlife and captivity class, which tends to focus on zoos, about which many students and I are deeply ambivalent, but we also explore wildlife trade issues and animals in wildlife rehab and entertainment and all the different ways that we use or involve animals in situations where they're being held by people for either their own purposes or for human purposes. We have an animal welfare science class elective, which Dr. King Podzeline teaches. She is a farm animal vet who has a huge interest in animal welfare. Animal behavior and human activity and applied animal behavior are both taught by Shona. The animal behavior and human activity class is thinking about ways that what people do affect animal behavior and how animals respond to people. And she also follows that with an applied animal behavior class, which is a lot more hands-on in terms of how animals are treated in, or how to deal with animals in shelters and veterinary practice and other kinds of things. And then we also have a number of opportunities for students to get involved in some of these community service electives, like the animal assisted activities, therapy, and other kinds of things. So, as well as like the cat clinic and stuff like that. So, and you never know what else is going to show up. I talked about externships. Here are some of the things that people do. So externships, people start looking for them in like February. There's some that are very standard where we just call people up and say, we have somebody for you to do this. So MSPCA advocacy department, we have somebody there every year. And they usually will come to us and say, who have you got for us this year? Same thing for Animal Welfare Institute in Washington, D.C., basically a government relations thing, but all kinds of organizations. What you pick depends a lot on your own personal circumstances. Is there some place you need to be, for example? Are you locked into a lease in Massachusetts? Do you need to stay in Massachusetts? Do you have family in California that you can stay with and do something in California? So we're pretty well connected. And so if there's something you're interested in, we can usually find a place for you to do it. Research projects are human-animal relationships. A lot of them are wildlife, some farm animals, a lot of companion animal issues. I had a student who I worked with who did a survey of trainers, asking them about what they knew and felt about Mustangs, wild Mustangs from the West. Just huge variety. And it's important. These work better if they overlap significantly with the interests of the faculty, but we have a pretty diverse faculty. And so there are lots of opportunities to do that. Dr. King mentored a student who is now a DVM student, third-year DVM student, who interviewed Connecticut dairy farmers and interviewed some of their workers as well to look at the impact of COVID on the farms, the animals, the workers, the farmers, everybody. So where do we go next? So, important question. So you graduate, what do you want to do? A significant number, maybe 20%, go to vet school or law school or PhD programs. If we do have students who come in thinking they want to be vets and decide they don't want to be vets. We have students come in thinking that they don't want to be vets and decide they do want to be vets. We had one student recently, a couple of years ago, who came in wanting to be a vet and decided instead she wanted to go to law school. So that's where she is now. So, so I think in general, it is, some students know what they want to do when they got here, but a lot don't. And as I say, some change their mind, think they know what they want to do, and then do something else. But a lot of our students get their first jobs with either animal protection or conservation nonprofits, like Animal Welfare Institute or what used to be the Humane Society of the United States. A lot also go to work for regional humane societies like MSPCA. MSPCA 1 year hired 5 of our students right out of school. Animal Rescue League in Boston, ASPCA, other folks who are involved in both advocacy, but also outreach and animal sheltering and all those activities that go with them. So a lot of our students end up there. We also have a pretty good number, maybe 10 or 15%, who go into either government service or research compliance. Research compliance being things like being staff for animal care and use committees or institutional review boards that review human subjects research. So there's quite a bit of diversity. And again, now that we have this large group of alumni, we're pretty well connected. And so here's 5 of our alumni over the past who were from, I don't know, about 2003 to 2015, who have, who are doing really well. And we can call all these people. And if you have an interest in anything that they're doing, they can talk to you. But there are many, many, many more who are doing jobs like this. So yeah, we are regularly in contact with many of our alums. They come to events that we stage for professional development, and we do have like an alumni networking night, and so they are a huge resource for MAPP students. So anyway, again, application deadline is April 1st. So that's kind of coming up, isn't it? That's just a couple weeks. The way it works is we usually evaluate the April 1st applications in like the 3rd week of April, and we'll get decisions back to you shortly after that. So, questions? I haven't noticed whether there are any in the chat, but sure. Anything anybody is curious about? What year do students currently typically apply? Do you mean? I'm not sure I understand what that means. We have students who apply right out of college or in their senior year, but we also have students who will work for years and years and years, and then come back at some later time because they've been doing something that's related to animals that they've realized can't be solved at the level that they're working on it, and realize that they need policy solutions. We have people who are career changers. So we have a student this year who's been in finance for 15 or 20 years and decided that he wanted to do something different. Does that answer your question? It makes the class interesting that we have people of different, yeah, Great. Yeah, it's great that we have people of different ages. We also have um, um, people from all kinds of different academic backgrounds. So I think we may have a professional musician coming in the upcoming class. Um, we have people with backgrounds in psychology, with backgrounds in biology, with backgrounds in art, um, finance, all manner of things. So it's really fun. People get to know each other, and just to have all these different perspectives really enriches the class. Other questions? Well, is there another question in the chat? Oh, no. You can just unmute yourself and ask. That's I have to say, this is I've been teaching in this program for 25 years, and I love it. I still love it. I really the students keep me alive. I mean, it's they have so much energy, and there's so many interesting things to talk about, and um, people have um, different diets. We last year we had a class where we had no vegetarians at all. We've also had classes where we have all vegetarians, or some are vegans and some are vegetarians. And there's always a lot of conversation about diet during the year. People sometimes change based on what they learn in the class. But all those cool things that you're interested in talking about are the things that we talk about. And um, so it's really enriching for us. And the whole faculty feels that way. Dr. Bueller has now been here for, I think, 12 years. I think Sean has been here for about that long. We just like it here. And we like talking to you guys and then sending you off into the world and seeing what you do.
Did you see the question about how many students are admitted each year?
Oh, how many students are admitted each year? Our class is usually around 16. So we have a little bit of flexibility there, but 14 to 16 is sort of ideal for us. So that it creates a really nice group dynamic again. It's not so big that people sort of split off by interest, but not too small that you sort of drive each other crazy. So it's nice. Again, the 16 number is allows people to pursue their interests and bounce ideas off each other and get to know each other very well. This year we happen to have a very social class. They're just doing stuff together all the time, which is fun. It's not that way every year. Every class has sort of a different dynamic, but um, but everybody learns a lot from each other. Right. How competitive is the program? Oops, hold on. How competitive is the program? There are sort of two levels to that question. One is how competitive is admissions? Um, we're a strange program. We don't get a lot of applications, but the people who apply are not people who are applying randomly. So we admit a pretty good proportion of the students who apply. In terms of your application, if you're a decent student and you can show you understand what we do and what you will get out of the program, and show some interest in the kinds of things that we do, some evidence of interest in the kinds of things we do, it's you have a pretty good chance of getting in. The other level is within the program, it doesn't seem to be competitive at all. Which is to say the community class dynamic is really positive and friendly, and we don't have much issues with competition. Again, it's because here everybody shares interests in a really special way. And so those sorts of bonds are really important. Okay. Is there any work going on in forming policies to help the wildlife of Yellowstone and Grand Tetons? That happens to be one of my specialties. I've been following the bison controversy for 35 years. In fact, that's why they hired me at HSUS. It's something that we all discuss a lot of. I track it really closely. We also track the issues with wolf management or wolf conservation. I'd say the bison story has been going better than the wolf story lately. But yeah, I mean, there are, I think, 2 ongoing lawsuits involving the National Park Service's bison management plan for Yellowstone. There's a bunch involving potentially relisting wolves. Anyway, yes, we are totally on top of it. And if that's something you're interested in, I can talk about that for like 5 hours. In fact, I do talk about that in class. So yeah, that's my favorite place in the world. So, and I know the animals pretty well. Okay. Any other questions? Again, there's a lot of stuff going on here, so please, I think you're probably already on our mailing list for Animal Matters, so Ginny will keep you posted on those. And if you have any questions about the program, practical, academic, otherwise, please contact us and we will get right back to you. Right. Thank you all for attending.